The cursed ship being weirdly quiet is back. Anyway, hey guys, hey guys, hey, it's me, it's Tech. It's Detractor. How you guys doing? I wanted to start this off a little bit stronger, but I'm cranking my volume knob higher than I ever have had it cranked before, and it feels weird because it's I can't think about it or else I'll start getting weird and touchy with it again. I just have to trust the audio is fine. It's fine. No one said anything about it yet. Anyway, what to even go over today? I saw a fun mystery movie today, and then on the way out, I saw what was it, like something like 4 cop cars around this one house, and then they cordoned off that whole corner, so it made coming home interesting. Also, I didn't think that I would get hit with this, but it seems that the influence of what was it, Evercold, Final Fantasy XIV Evercold, has once again proven its influence, in that a friend that I play Lancer with, and then like my partner's brother, have all decided that they want to start playing Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm like, fuck yeah, man! More power to you. I'll have my I'll have my tank ready for you whenever you need to be like dragged through an encounter. So they're getting all set up. I never thought I would know someone who'd be like, yes, this is exactly what I need right at this moment. But hey, you know, happy little accidents. Today, I brought a big thing of water that is already half drunk, and it is also sparkling water. Which you shouldn't drink anything carbonated doing voices, but here I am. It was going to be cold too, but I forgot to leave it in the fridge, which is also something bad. You don't want anything cold or anything too hot, I think, because I think it like messes with like how your range or something. I don't really remember. I'm not a professional voice actor. Let's get back into it. Oh, that's right. And so the special winter cleaning team's activities ended uneventfully. The time was 3 in the afternoon. Upon departing, Kinomi and his crew invited Sojiro, Souguro, Sojiro, to come hang out with them, but he declined politely due to his job that evening. He had about 2 hours until his shift began. Not quite enough time to do anything fun, but just enough time to have to fill it with something. The ADHD dilemma. Beans! Beans! Sojiro thought about relaxing in a park somewhere, but quickly changed his mind after remembering how cold it was, even in the city. And also what happened the last time he went to a park. Not to forget, Aoko handed him those pills in the morning. Aoko was absolutely correct in her prediction. Heading back to the mansion now would just be a waste of time. There's no reason for him to return to the mansion until after his shift at work. Still, Sojiro found himself on the way back anyway. Having grown up deep in the mountains, a little 2-hour walk was really no sweat off his back. Well, it has to be a 1-hour walk, because it's 1 hour in out and then 1 hour back in. Misaki was one of the more quiet residential areas in Misaki City. The only thing that really stood out there was Shirou Inuzuka. White dog something. It was a hill that led directly into the woods. The silhouette of the mountains served as a backdrop to suburbia, silently overshadowing the small human actions of the people who lived there. Even in this modern day of technological progress, the people here were always careful to pay reverence to the nature around them. If that mansion were a shrine, it would not be a haunted house, but a famous tourist attraction. I think I just realized something. The houses around Shirou and Inuzuka were all magnificent. Sojiro understood as he looked from the bottom of this hill where the rest of the town lived, at the roof of the mansion tucked away from the woods. He understood what Tobimaru was talking about how the Kuwanji family who owned that mansion might be the richest people in town.
その割に家賃を取るところを見ると、やっぱり嫌われていると見るべきか。
Man, they really do hate me. Why else would they ask for rent? And then fight amongst each other the split. Fucking. Sojiro began walking towards the mansion with such thoughts simmering in his mind. The feeling of the hard asphalt beneath his feet instead of soft dirt felt lonely and isolating. One day we're going to get a mountain flashback. He walked along the paved road for 10 minutes or so before reaching the iron fence of the wood. Beyond this fence was the private property of the Kuwanji family. It was bereft of any awkward no trespassing signs. The tall, overbearing iron fence was more than enough to remind visitors that they were unwelcome there. Sojiro casually pushed on the iron gate. Only 2 days had passed since the end of the final exams, and he already seemed more than comfortable with the idea of entering this wood alone. The path to the mansion from inside the wood curved and bent like a snake. It took about 15 minutes to reach the mansion on this path. He could have chosen to ignore the long incline and travel in a straight line through the wood, but he would have expended significantly more energy in doing so. Now, using the wooded path was the sensible option, barring an emergency. Upon entering the foyer, Sojiro heard a conversation coming from the drawing room. It was no doubt Aoko and Alice. Sojiro decided to join them. Ever since final exams had ended, Aoko and Alice had switched from their daily routine to a more irregular schedule. Aoko would disappear into Alice's room in the west wing of the mansion for a while, where she would remain. And Alice would go into Aoko's room, never to be seen again. Where they would vanish into the corridors leading up to the rear of the mansion doing who knows what, where Sojiro was most certainly not allowed to enter. Did they like body swap or something? I think that'd be really funny if they did. Not that he was interested in what they were doing, since Aoko and Alice did not seem to want to include him either, serving both parties nicely. For the time being, the Kwanji estate was pretty peaceful.
ただいま。
Home. Sojiro quietly opened up the door to the drawing room. Even though they tried not to be involved in each other's business, Sojiro made it a habit to greet them. The two girls sat across from him on the sofa. On the table in front of them was a large, extravagantly decorated mirror. Aoko was dressed for comfort, wearing jeans instead of her usual skirt. In stark contrast, Alice was dressed in her usual all black. Even though the break from school was well underway, the witch still insisted on wearing black. As Aoko had explained, it was probably because it was too much effort for Alice to wear anything else. Sojiro's thought was that he would like to see her wear something different. Aoko and Alice seemed to be in the middle of some sort of dispute. The air in the drawing room was tense. They both ignored his greeting. Alice only briefly looked up at him.
じゃあ、東川の視点はあそこの柱は白色だし、そう簡単には奪われないでしょ
What about the Chikawa point? That pillar's white, so hopefully it won't be so easy to remove.
ええ。今のところ東川は侵食されていないけど、一つ隣の鈴穂の視点が消された以上、楽観はできないわ。残りの割り出しは今までより早くなる。
Yes, the Tokawa one is still active, but the Shizuo support next to it is gone, so we can't really be too careful. With each sigil they discover, they get better at finding the others.
そっか。一個釣れれば、あとは芋づる式だもんね。
That makes sense. I guess once they found one, they can easily find the other connections.
反省したわ。甘く見てたのはこっちの方だった。ここからは、1週間単位の攻防になるわね。
More puppets. I really messed up. I should have been more careful. This is going to turn into a weekly battle soon. The two continued their heated discussion from opposite sides of the table. Aoko neglected to even glance up at Sojiro. Sojiro had sensed that she wanted to concentrate on the discussion at hand.
でも消せないな。
It's so strange, though.
あの夜に人形を出してくるタイミングといい、隠し方だけは一級品なうちの視点を短期間で特定することといい、こいつまず間違いなく市内にアジトを敷いてるわよね。
Yeah, more puppets. Setting aside the timing of the puppet that night and how quickly they were able to find our expertly hidden sigil, whoever it is most definitely has to be some kind of hideout in the city.
なのになんで結界に異常がないんだろう。三崎市一帯の索敵網はもう100年近く破られたことがないのに。
But if that's the case, why aren't we detecting any abnormalities in the field? The dragon around Misaki City hasn't been broken for nearly 100 years. Oh, man, yeah. Aoko bit her nails nervously while Alice nodded along. It seemed as though she was wondering the same thing.
母もここの結界には触れなかった。
Even my mother wasn't able to touch this bounded field.
岬の結界をかいくぐるにはあなたのおじいさんかそれ以上の技量を持つ魔術師でないと難しい。
The only person capable of getting through Misaki's bounded field would have been your grandfather, an even more capable mage.
けどそれほどの魔術師なら逆に気配は隠しきれない。
But someone exuding that level of magical energy would find it that much harder to cover his or her tracks.
何か特殊な音響法かもしれないわね。ここ数年新しいサークルの話は聞かないけど。
It could be some kind of unique concealment ward, but I haven't heard anything about any new fairy circles forming these past few years.
何？シャーウッドの森？メイキングなら以前アリスの霧が粉砕したじゃない。あれ以上の音響があるっていうの？
Something to do with, yeah, whatever. Where was it? Sherwood Forest? The May King was able to break through your mist, remember? Do you think there's some sort of concealment stronger than that?
例えばの話よ。今回の相手はこちら以上の技量を持っているか、こちらの知らない技術を持っているか。
All I'm saying is if whoever we're dealing with has skills greater than our own, maybe there's some techniques we aren't aware of.
どちらにせよ評価を改めるべきね。私たち気づかないうちに追い詰められているのかも。
Either way, we need to reevaluate things. We might be under more pressure than we thought. Two fell silent. Sojiro, after some internal deliberation, decided to break the silence.
や、ただいま。
So I'm home. Aoko finally looked at him in response to his hesitant declaration.
いいからお風呂に入ってきたら。汚れてるわよ、宗十郎。
That's fine, Sojiro, but will you please take a bath? You're dirty, and I can smell you from here. And with that, Aoko returned her gaze to the mirror. Alice looked briefly up at Sojiro again before also returning her gaze to the mirror. Perhaps feeling at least somewhat satisfied by his greeting, that his greeting was acknowledged, Sojiro left the drawing room and closed the door behind him. Aoko was right, his clothes were a little soiled.
そうだな。もったいないけど確かに。
It's a waste of water, but I guess I should. Sojiro returned to his room, thinking a bath might actually feel pretty nice in this cold weather, despite not really having broken a sweat at all during the day. Bro, don't you have work in like 5 minutes? He climbed the stairs in the foyer, up the second flight to this attic. Unlike the other rooms in the mansion, this one had no frills to its decor. It was a little cumbersome to use as a living space, but comfortable enough for Sojiro. Everywhere else in the mansion was a little too gaudy for his tastes. As far as the shelter and a place to sleep went, Sojiro was more than satisfied with his accommodations. There was no electricity in the attic. The only light was that which crept from a small skylight. Not that Sojiro minded. He was more accustomed to living without electricity than living with it. With only the faint winter light to guide him, he readied a change of clothes and a towel before heading down to the foyer. Despite its magnificent size of the mansion, there was only one bath to the whole. Really? That seems like a contrivance. And not a particularly large one at that. Whoever the architect was, he or she must not have thought a bath to be so important. Or perhaps they were not the bath type. Sojiro descended to the foyer and made his way back to the stairs. He knocked on the door of the bath. As expected, there was no one answer from the other side. The only other two occupants of the mansion were still talking in the drawing room. But it is polite to knock. After confirming it was unoccupied, Sojiro quietly entered the bathroom. Even though Sojiro was not aware of it himself, it was common for him. The only hobby he'd acquired since coming down from the mountain was taking a nice, relaxing bath. It's a good habit. Sojiro had left, but the two girls were still locked in their heated discussion. Needless to say, the topic of the conversation was still that of the outsider mage who had appeared in Misaki City last month. This was, after all, the problem that had occupied their time before this whole situation with Sojiro arose, dealing with and eliminating the interloper who had set his or her sights on their territory.
今まではおとりにばっかり食いついてたから甘く見てたけど、それも計算づくだったのかしらね。
All this time we've been preoccupied by a decoy, no doubt also part of their plan.
こっちが油断してる隙に本命を一つ奪われた。
Then, while we're distracted, they've crept in and stolen another one.
この相手との戦いはこれからが本番ってことか。
The fight against this mage has only just begun. The situation was growing more dire by the day. Until only a couple days ago, the enemy had limited themselves to small skirmishes. But now they'd shifted to a full-on offensive. Aoko had two major battlefields she used for defense. One, the larger of the two, was placed around Misaki City to detect magical energy and magecraft. This was used to observe and monitor visitors from outside the city. It was initially set up by Aoko's ancestors, the administrators of this territory, and in no way to be removed. The other was set up to energize and manage ley lines from within the territory. 5 sigils carved into the earth made up a standard square-type array, protecting all that lay within its bounds. After some manipulation of the mana flow, the power within was directed to accumulate in the Kuwanji estate. That is to say, the bounded field existed to monopolize the magical energy within Misaki City. There were 5 sigils in total, with the Kuwanji estate located in the center. If all 5 sigils were forcibly removed, Aoko's jurisdiction of the territory would be in title only. Without the power of the land to back them up, they would be forced to fight back against their invaders on equal ground, with only their own innate abilities to protect them. The only reason Alice and the inexperienced Aoko were able to defend this territory so far was because of these 2 fields. The dragnet that notified Aozaki of any threats was also her lifeline. But this time, their enemy had somehow slipped through the cracks and was running rampant. This was what the girls had to face up to.
どちらにせよ時間の問題ね。
Either way, it's only a matter of time at this point.
視点がすべて潰されたら、いよいよここでの籠城になるけど。いいの？青子。
Once all the sigils are destroyed, the mansion will be our last stronghold of our defense. Are you okay with that, Aoko?
別にいいんじゃないの？アリスの言う通り、残りの視点を消されるのは時間の問題なんだし。
I mean, what other choice do we have? Like you said, it's only a matter of time before the sigils are destroyed.
そりゃ敵のアジトを発見できれば同じだけど、それは絶対必要ってわけでもないでしょ？視点を消されても、私にはあんまり関係ないし。
Our best chance would be to find their hideout, but it's not exactly a necessity. They can remove the sigils for all I care.
何より、館の守りはあんたがいる限り万全だしね。
As long as you're here, then the mansion itself shouldn't be a problem to defend.
あっちの方からやってきてくれるなら、それこそ飛んで火にいるよ。
And if they do, then they're marching to their own demise.
他に心配事なんてないでしょ。
What else is there to worry about?
そうね。敵が一人だけなら、その時は鏡の範囲をここに集中させて戦場にすればいい。私たちにとってその方が有利だったわ。
Nothing, I suppose. With only a single opponent to deal with, we're better off focusing the field of the mirror on the estate and making this mansion our last line of defense. Alice touched the mirror on the table with her pale fingers. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. Oop, shit, doesn't like that. It's not like that at all. The mirror was another protector of Misaki City, separate from Aozaki's bounded fields. More accurately, it was a ploy that existed only to protect Alice Kuwanji rather than Misaki City itself. It generated a thick fog and acted as an invitation to any visitors, drawing them into its board game-like world. Alice referred to it only as the mirror. But it was known to her friends as the Mirror of Slumber. This was a magecraft that Alice Kuwanji wielded. Please go away, please go away, please go away. It doesn't like it. Within the rippling surface of the mirror, an image of a castle began to form, and also a lush forest, a field, and a river. Aoko stared at the mirror in silence, before suddenly jumping to her feet off the sofa.
そうと決まれば、あとは行動あるのみね。
That's all decided. We can get back to actually doing stuff.
出かけるわよ、アリス。とにかく現場を見ないことには始まらない。
I'm going out, Alice. Can't do anything until we have eyes on the ground. Alice let out a tired sigh in response to Aoko's determination, then gave the mirror a gentle caress. The sound of dripping water filled the room. The mirror began to consume the table in a thick fog with a single caress from Alice.
順番に回るのなら帰るのは朝になるわね。
If we're visiting each sigil, we definitely want to be back until morning.
まあまあ、そう億劫がらないで。
Nah, we'll be home in no time.
ところでアリス、火の五芒星の退去ってこうだっけ？
Oh, right. I meant to ask you, is this the proper way to do a fire pentagram banishment? Aoko traced a shape in the air with her fingers. She mimed a star shape starting from the top, moving down and to the right, and then from there to the upper left and so on.
そろそろ壊すこと以外も覚えないとダメよ、アオコ。
It's about time you learned something other than how to break things, Aoko. Alice sat up from the sofa, letting out a heavy sigh. They both took their coats from the hangers and left the drawing room.
失礼ね。私だって日々成長してるわよ。
Well, excuse me. I guess I need to study some more on top of all the studying I already do. I wonder if you guys heard that. Ideally, no. Oh gosh, you definitely heard that one though. Sorry.
この間のおまじないだってちゃんと成功したんだから。
Remember that charm I pulled off just the other day?
おまじない？
What charm?
簡単な暗示の呪文。
The simple mesmerize.
ほら、
Sorry, I'm
アリス
also
が教
taking
えて
care
く
of
れ
something
た
else.
軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げってやつ。
You know, the one you taught me. Light and frail, nimble and quick. Tick tock, there's no time to waste. That one.
それ本当？
Are you being serious right now?
ほんともほんと。後で総重量に聞いてみなさい。
Yes, I'm serious. You can ask Sojiro later if you don't believe me. Alice swallowed her words, clearly displeased. She luckily stopped herself in time to realize that it was not worth the effort to take issue with it.
けど留守中その彼はどうするの？
On the topic, what will he do while we're away?
大丈夫でしょう。アリスの西館と開かずの間に入らなきゃ即死するようなことは。
He'll be fine, as long as he didn't try and go into the West Wing or anything like that. There shouldn't really be any immediate threat to his... Aoko responded hastily as she opened the door to the foyer. As soon as she did... Just as quickly, Alice's downs had gotten stuck in her throat. Aoko suddenly froze, unable to speak. Ho ho ho!
ですって。
What? For a moment, Aoko wasn't sure who was standing before her. She could only stare at the glinting rays of sunlight creeping into the room as she reeled from the shock. You know, normally this happens the other way around, but I like this way. Her mind went completely black. It was as if she had just woken up from a nap, or a jack-in-the-box had just opened on her face. Sojiro was probably the only person who truly knew how long that dumbfounded silence went on.
あんた、こんなところで何してるのよ、一体。
What the hell are you doing standing there like that? Aoko finally found her voice.
何って着替えてるんだけど。
What? This changing? Sojiro's response was matter of fact. He offered no explanation as to why he was changing in the foyer and not the bathroom. Aiko was too shocked to read him the riot act. Is it because he's fucking hunky? Sojiro was putting on a shirt after presumably just getting out of the bath. His neck was wrapped in bandages. That is also very much like what is happening here. And he was completely shirtless. His hair was wet, but his skin wasn't glistening from the steam of hot water. He must have washing himself in nothing more than cold. Though shocked as to why anyone would do such a thing in this cold weather, she let it slide. The source of her silent stupor was simply his body. Cue the GG clip. Your body's absurd. Until now, she'd only seen him as harmless, without his clothing to hide him. However, he was more fit than she'd ever imagined. Yo, man. Fucking, it doesn't fit properly. Ooh. But yeah. Get that boy a belt or don't. I'm fine either way. For a rough mountain upbringing, where one's body and strength meant survival, perhaps he was a bit underdeveloped. And on top of that,
それ、傷跡なの？
are those scars? Aoko asked cautiously. Sojiro followed her gaze. He had something that looked like a burn scar on his arm. It was random in appearance, nothing like Aoko's magic crest with its ordered patterns.
ああ、これか。ずいぶん前に野犬の群れに襲われて噛みつかれたんだ。命があっただけでも幸運だから、傷跡ぐらいはご愛嬌だ。
Oh, this? A long time ago, I was attacked by a pack of wild dogs, and they bit me. It's a miracle I'm even still alive, so if anything, I'm kind of fond of the scar. A long time ago. He must be talking about when he was a child. Though his life was saved, it was apparent that he hadn't been able to receive proper treatment deep in the mountains where he lived. Those scars were proof of that. Considering it had happened so many years ago, it was unlikely they would ever fade. Ooh, yeah, whatever. If only for an instant. Aoko thought these wild scars left on his skin suited his lean body perfectly.
確かにあまり気持ちのいいものじゃないな。自分の部屋で着替えるべきだった。
Yeah, I know, it's not that pleasant to look at. I probably should have just changed in my own room. Sojiro sounded slightly ashamed as he put on his shirt, looking at Aoko standing there in cold silence. The two girls had no response. Sojiro headed for the stairs to go back to his room.
ちょっと待って、宗十郎。
Wait a second, Sojiro.
Hmm?
What? Sojiro stopped and turned around.
あ、なんていうか。
um, so, how do I say this? Aoko looked away awkwardly, apparently not knowing why she had stopped him herself.
なんか青崎らしくない。
This doesn't really like Yazaki.
さっきから変だけど、熱でもあるんじゃないのか。あれから満足に寝てないだろ、二人とも。
Yeah, you're acting strange. Did you get a fever or something? I bet neither of you gotten proper sleep since all of that nonsense, have you? He was, of course, referring to the final exams. From Sojiro's perspective, the amount of work Aoko put in seemed strange.
熱なんてないったら。
I don't have a fever.
そうじゃなくて、どうしてこんなところで着替えてたのよ、あんたは。
That's not what this is about. I want to know why the hell you're changing clothes here. Aoko was doing her best to keep up appearances. But for some reason, Sojiro was hesitant to say much more.
それは、その。
So, like, okay. It's exactly easy to say.
言いづらいんだが、下着の管理はきちんとした方がいいと思う。どっちだかは知らないけど。
But you guys need to take care of your underwear better. I don't know whose it is, though. Alice, who had been completely silent behind Aoko, couldn't resist responding to that statement. Although she hadn't wanted to get involved, this was something she couldn't ignore.
言っておくけど、それは青子だから。
I'm throwing someone into the bus. I must point out that it was most definitely Aoko. Alice's response was quick and to the point.
洗濯の当番は確かに私だったけど。
I may have been in charge of laundry, but... Aoko seemed like she was just holding back on going critical.
とにかく、もうすぐアルバイトだから着替えてくる。
Anyway, I gotta get dressed now, or I'm gonna be late, so... Sensing that those two were probably about to get into an argument, Sojiro took this chance to leave. And with that, Sojiro briskly left the scene.
Alice.
Alice,
とりあえず、片付けてくるわ。
I'll go clean up. Alice calmly walked into the bathroom. A few minutes later, just as the two were about to head out and fulfill their duties as mages, Alga remembered something she wanted to ask.
そうだ、アリス。傷ってあれのこと？
Hey, Alice, do you think those scars were...
あれは傷跡じゃないわ。
I don't think so.
だって、あんなにも誇らしいもの。
He seemed so proud after all. Alco agreed. What had impressed her the most about those scars were how he treated them, simply as part of his past, absent of any regret. Alco wouldn't have gone so far as to say he was proud, but it seemed her instincts had been correct. That, and one more thing.
でも一つだけはっきりしたわ。
One thing's clear,
そ
though.
れじゃあ、不覚にも見惚れてたのは私一人じゃなかったってことよね、アリス。
I wasn't the only one who was pleasantly surprised by what I saw, was I, Alice? That's my shithead laugh. Alco smiled wryly at Alice, like a child who knew they were doing something they shouldn't with their friend. Alice was trying to ignore her as best as she could. She looked away without saying a word. Alco let out a satisfied snicker and began walking towards the front door.
じゃ、行こうか。まずはあの公園からでいいでしょ。今回の件は、あそこから全てが始まったわけだし。
Let's get going. We should probably start at the park, right? Since that's where it all started. She was talking about the local park in Misaki. The place where they had run into the enemy puppets and, of course, where their involvement with Sojiro had began. Early the next morning, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Most people were still in their beds sleeping. Although some 24-hour convenience stores had opened last year, Misaki Town was still very much living the good old days of the early 80s. Is that the bubble period? The economic bubble? Even the tofu shop in the shopping district, known for opening earlier than anyone else, didn't open until 6. But this was the late 80s, during the latter half of, Japan's bubble economy. It was a time when metropolitan areas never slept. Those in the countryside, however, remained in the past. I could really use some brain potion right now. I'd keep a supply on hand, but I almost never use it. I almost never need it often enough to warrant using it. Whatever. The homes were blanketed in silence. The streets were empty of commuters, and not a single automobile could be heard. The sun was just barely peeking over the horizon. The town would still be asleep for at least an hour longer before it even began waking up. It was during this time that someone stepped onto the Guanji estate. Sojiro was working the late shift during winter vacation and had just come home. Doesn't he need to take his poison? He moved quietly through the drawing room so he wouldn't wake up Aoko and Alice, who were presumably still asleep. Guanji estate had a few established rules. One of those rules forbade more Japanese tea. This new rule had only come into effect 3 days prior. It was proposed after Alice saw Sojiro drinking green tea in the kitchen after dinner one night.
Uh.
Uh,
Oh?
Huh? Looking back on it, the decision had been made rather abruptly. That single gasp of surprise was all Alice said. She grasped her head as if she was battling the most vicious of migraines, called for Aoko, then made the decision to ban all Japanese teas from this mansion. By some miracle, Aoko managed to negotiate and keep Sojiro's privileges to barley tea during the summer.
だいたいイギリス産だって初めはグリーンティーが主流だったじゃない。
Even the British only drink green tea at first, you know. Aoko had clearly hit a nerve with this argument. Aoko stared at Alice, fairly certain why she was so taken aback by Sojiro's actions.
そこまで嫌がらなくてもな。お茶は何だって美味しいのに。
I don't get why it's such a big deal. Tea is good no matter what kind it is. Sojiro grumbled to himself while sipping his hot green tea. He didn't realize that Alice was upset because he had poured his green tea into a teacup meant for black tea. In Sojiro's defense, this was the only teacup that Alice had given him permission to use. At any rate, the early morning was his to enjoy. This was his moment to relax with the Japanese tea he'd smuggled in. He didn't use this time to read books or watch TV, he just drank his tea and gazed fondly at the garden, or rather the dense woods outside. Sojiro simply sat, relaxed, and let his mind wander. That's a good way to be for a while. About an hour passed. That's about as much as you can take, you know. He was beginning to feel refreshed. He heard sounds coming from the foyer. He knew it was Aoko and Alice talking, so he rushed to hide his teapot in the leaves in the kitchen. Finding the contraband was easy enough, considering just how many unused shelves there were in the kitchen. Sojiro was perturbed by how they wasted the potential of such a splendid kitchen.
あら、早いのね、宗十郎。
Oh, you're up early, Sojiro. Aoko spoke as she took off her white down jacket. Next to her, Alice silently took off her black coat.
いや、今帰ってきたんだ。天城浜の食品工場に深夜のパートで入ることになって。 その帰り。
Nah, I just got home, actually. I started working late shift at a food factory in Amagihama. There it is. Sojiro stuck his head out from the kitchen and gestured that he was about to put on some water to boil. Alice tilted her head slightly at him. It wasn't that she thought his gesturing was funny or anything like that.
天城浜から
Amagihama? Alice glanced up at the clock at the drawing room and her expression darkened.
どうしたのアリス。
What's wrong, Alice? Aoko asked from her comfortable seat on the sofa.
別に
Nothing. Alice responded indifferently before finally sitting down as well.
宗十郎、砂糖は一杯だけだからね。
Sojiro, just one scoop of sugar, please. Remember? Aoko yelled her matter-of-course request into the kitchen. Sojiro didn't respond, but it was an affirmative silence. This was the result of 2 entire nights' worth of cramming that Alice knew nothing about.
アリスは？
What about you, Alice?
私はミルクだけでいいけど
I'll just have mine with milk. Alice responded out of obligation.
了解。ミルクティーだね。
Milk tea, got it. For some reason, Sojiro dutifully answered Alice's request.
ま、いいけど、いちいち突っ込んでたらキリがないし。
Fine. Sick of his voice, he replied every time anyway.
それより珍しいじゃない。アリスがティーバッグのお茶飲むなんて。
Anyway, isn't it pretty rare for you to be drinking tea from a tea bag, Alice?
今日は疲れたからたまには
I'm just tired today. Thought I might as well. Seems she had allowed herself to accept another's kindness, at least for today.
ふーん。ま、いいか。それより宗十郎。
If you say so. More importantly, Sojiro,
あんた、さっきお菓子のこと言わなかった？
didn't you say something weird earlier?
別に言ってないぞ、そんなこと。
Huh? I feel like I say a lot of weird shit.
そう、ならいいんだけど。
I could have sworn you said something. The two were conversing over a distance of 4 yards. Alice decided to add her opinion to the conversation.
しずきくんがおかしなことを言わない日はないと思うわ私
I don't think a day has ever gone by when he hasn't said something weird, to be honest. Her quiet tone was luckily just low enough that Sojiro couldn't hear her from the kitchen.
そりゃそうだけど、今ちょっと変だったでしょ？
I agree, but seriously. Wasn't he talking kind of strangely just now?
いや、何が引っかかったのかまではわからないんだけどさ。
I'm not sure I know exactly how to describe it.
そうね会話自体は普通だったけれど内容を考えてみるとどこかおかしいわね
True. The conversation itself was normal, but something did seem off about what he was saying. Aoko became gradually more irritated as she failed to grasp what had been odd about the conversation. Just then, Sojiro appeared holding a tray with a teacup for each of them.
何を話してるんだ？
Shit.
単に新しいアルバイトを
そうね会話自
何を話してるんだ？単に新しいアルバイトを始め
What are you guys talking about? I literally just said I started a new part-time job. That's all. He put the cups down on the black table without making even the slightest sound. Alice couldn't complain about how proper his job as a waiter had made him. While she didn't say anything out loud, she did nod in his direction to show some gratitude. Aoko, however...
天城浜だっけ？あそこってスタジ
Shit. Amagihama, was it? There's a huge stadium over there that I go to sometimes when a band I like is on tour. The student council president, a supposed model student, loved rock bands. Aoko was secretly obsessed with the number of bands and used to travel way out of town just to see them perform live when she was in middle school. Of course, this is a world that Shirou was far from familiar with.
それよりまた新しいバイト始めたんだ。そんなに働いてどうする気なのよ、宗十郎は。
Anyway, I can't believe you've started yet another part-time job. What are you trying to accomplish working that hard, Shirou?
ああ、よく聞いてくれたね。
Oh, we're listening.
本人の名誉のために名前は伏せるけど、誰かさんと誰かさんが俺の少ない収入を無慈悲に奪っていくから、働く先を増やしたんだ。
Well, I have to work more because there are a couple people in my life who would like to take all my money from me, and for every little thing you can imagine. This was as much resistance as Shirou was able to give. Aoko lifted her teacup to her mouth as if she was completely oblivious to Sojiro's monologue.
それは大変ね。
Sucks, Alice said as she set her teacup down quietly. There were some things she just did not understand. Aoko had to hold back her laughter as she looked at Alice and Shirou.
言った自分が未熟だった。
Why do I even bother? Sojiro's shoulders fell as he said this. He took a sip of his black tea, still unsure about the taste.
まあ、アルバイトが多いって分かってくれるだけでいいか。
As long as you guys know I'm working a lot, I guess that's fine.
そういったわけだから、冬休み中は夜も留守にする。例の薬はアルバイト先で飲むしかないんだけど。
So that means I'll also be away during the winter vacation. At night during winter vacation. I have to take those pills at work though.
ああ、それなら心配いらないわ。もうあれはやめたから。
Oh, don't worry about them. I'm done with those.
いちいち作るのも面倒だし、もっとしずきくんに似合うのを見つけてきたの。
They were a pain to make, and I found something more suitable for you anyway. Aoko had a huge, ominous grin on her face. She put her hand into her jacket pocket and pulled out a little paper bag. It was a small, circular object about 20 inches in diameter, wrapped up nicely like a present.
はい、これは入居祝い。これからはそれをつけておくのよ、宗十郎。
I read his attention, Mats. I know exactly what this is. Here's a little something to celebrate your moving in here. I want you to wear that from now on, Shirou. Shirou opened the paper bag. Inside was a white belt. But it wasn't a belt for putting around your waist to keep your pants up. To put it as clearly as possible, it was a collar.
青子。
I can hear the disappointment in her voice. Hold on. I need to hear it again.
青子。
It just sounds so withering.
青子。
It's like, Aoko. Come on. Aoko. Alice's expression darkened at this turn of events. But it wasn't clear whether it was her friend's insidiousness or sympathy for Shirou that concerned her.
どう？気に入った？
So, what do you think? Aoko was clearly a little crazy. At least she wasn't totally serious. It was obvious that this was at least half a prank to see how Shirou would react. But Shirou was solemnly considering the collar he had just been gifted.
意味はつかみかねるけど、こういうものを人からもらうのはこれが初めてだ。
I feel like I'm missing a little bit of context here, but it is the first time anyone has given me something like this. He actually sounded like this would be a happy memory for him. Alice narrowed her eyes at what was transpiring.
けど、これは何に使うんだ？
But like, what do I do? What do I use this for?
簡単よ。金庫寺と同じで、飼い犬が主人に逆らうと首を絞めるの。あっちは頭につけてたけど、それよりは首のがマシでしょ？
It's simple. It's like the golden headband in Journey to the West. Wukong had to wear it, and if he stepped out of line, Wukong had to wear it if he stepped out of line, This you wear around your neck like a dog collar. Sojiro grimaced when he finally understood Aoko's mean-spirited gift. He really wanted to ask her what kind of person comes up with such an evil idea.
つまり秘密をばらしたり逆らったりしたら首が締まると。
So basically, if I divulge any secret to disobey you, then that collar will choke me, is that right?
やっぱり熱でもあるんじゃないのか、青崎は。
And you're sure you're feeling alright, Ozaki?
あら、首輪はいやせっかく宗十郎に似合いそうなものを見つけたのに。
Oh, do you not like it? Tried to pick out what I thought would suit you the best. Aoko had such an evil grin on her face. Sojiro had a surprising response to this gift that Aoko had clearly gotten as a prank.
それもそうか。毎日毒を飲むよりはマシだし、このベルト自体いいものだし。
I guess you are right. I mean, better than taking poison every day. The belt itself looks pretty well made.
気に入った。ありがとう、青崎。
Actually, I think I like it. Thank you, Ozaki. He spoke 100% truthfully. Aoko's face contorted in disbelief, but she could only mumble as if he was serious.
人の行為はどんなものだって嬉しいよ。
I'm happy about any act of kindness.
それに、それが青崎ならなおさらだ。
Even more so when it's from you, Ozaki. Gotta type something really quick. But with that, Sojiro put the belt around his neck. He placed it over the bandages already there.
こんな感じかな。きついけど、そのうち慣れるだろう。
I guess this works. It's a little tight, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. Despite his words to the contrary, Sojiro tugged at the belt uncomfortably and adjusted it. It was such a perverse scene that even Aoko's face was red as a beet, even though this had been her idea from the start. Perhaps it was because it gave her such a clear reminder of the scars she had seen the other day before.
よし。止め方はこれでいいのか。
Okay, is it on right? Look how little editing they needed to do to make that happen. Don't get all nervous now, this was your idea. Aoko retreated guiltily as Sojiro came closer to her to check the fit of the new collar.
黙ってちゃわからないのに。
I mean, if you don't say anything, how do I know if it fits?
いいよ。アリスに聞くから。
You know what? I'll just ask Alice. Sojiro shifted his gaze from Alice to Aoko, from Aoko to Alice. Alice stared intently at Sojiro wearing his new collar and said,
ロックね。青子、趣味に走りすぎよ。
Punk rock, hmm? Aoko, stop trying to dress him how you want him to look. She could not have put it any more bluntly.
いや、やかましい。そんなんじゃない。
Shut up! That's not what I was trying to do.
もういい。とにかくそういうことよ。これからはその首輪が薬の代わりよ。せいぜい秘密を守ることね。
Just ignore her. From now on, that collar will replace the pills I was giving you. Don't go divulging any of our secrets. Aoko was oddly empathetic as she spoke before stomping off towards the hallway. Sorry, empathic. It's a different
それ
word.
と、これからお昼まで仮眠を取るけど、くだらないことで起こしたら殺すから。
I'm gonna take a nap until lunch. If you wake me up for any stupid reason, I will murder you. Slam. Aoko slammed the door behind her as she left the drawing room. Sojiro stared in amazement.
なんで青崎はいつもいきなり怒るんだろ
I wonder why she gets so mad at him like that all of a sudden. He murmured to himself, forgetting that Alice was standing right there in front of him.
しずきくんには悪意が通じないからでしょう。気にする必要はないわ。
I assume it's because the ill intent doesn't seem to get through to you. I wouldn't worry about it, though, if I were you.
悪意って今のが？
Ill intent. What? Just now? Alice looked up at Sojiro's innocent response. There was a glimmer in her eyes that showed surprise at her current actions.
なんでもないから気にしないで。
It's nothing. Don't worry about it. With that terse reply, she returned to her usual expressionless self. There was no use explaining Aoko's feelings. Aoko brought that collar. Aoko bought the collar for the sole purpose of annoying Sojiro and causing mischief. When things didn't turn out how she planned, her conscience got the better of her. Sojiro mistakenly thought that Aoko was angry at him, when in reality, she was only angry at herself. Alice didn't bother telling Sojiro all these heartwarming details, though. Not because it was too much work, just because she was never one to have meaningless conversations. This was how she had been raised.
しずきくんはこれからどうするの？
So what are your plans for the rest of the day, Suzuki? Alice suddenly changed the topic. Sojiro thought a while before replying.
夕方までゆっくりするよ。ここのところ忙しすぎた。
It's been a busy night for my texts. I'm just gonna relax until the evening. I've been way too busy recently.
せっかくだからテレビも見ていたいし、お昼には青崎を起こさないといけないだろ。
I want to watch some TV now since we have... Sorry. It's been busy. Okay, I think I mentioned it earlier. Like, uh, 2 new sprouts. I'm kind of looking over. It's it's been it's been busy in my texts recently. I guess that's just Discord, whatever. But anyway, I want to watch some TV now that we have to wake up Zaki at lunchtime, right?
そう。なら静かにしていて。
Right. Just keep it quiet then. Alice let out a gentle sigh and rose to her feet. Just keep it quiet. Sodru would understand exactly what she meant by those words in just a few minutes. The sun shining through the window was bright. It was just about 9 o'clock, about time for the morning television programs to get going. Sojiro was sitting on the sofa, staring at the window at the scene outside. The view from the neighboring sunroom showed a courtyard in a state of disrepair. Sojiro could appreciate the outdoors in both its natural wild state and when tamed by human hands.
あれは近いうちになんとかせねばなるまい。
I should do something about that sometime soon. Sojiro muttered to himself, turning another page in his textbook. On the table before him was a mathematics textbook and a notebook with Aoko's name on it. Although at first glance he appeared to be a diligent student studying on his day off, he was in truth only doing so as a compromise. By the way, those erasers, I can't like... These erasers? Sick. This is one of the best erasers that I've ever had. Mostly are used for artistic reasons, but like... Man. If I still use pencils... He'd given up his main intent of watching the morning television shows. The reason why he gave up was simple. He was being considerate of Alice, who sat in front of him with her nose buried in a book. Instead of holding herself up in her room, she'd brought out her old, dusty books to read. This is what she meant when she said she had to keep quiet. Sodru found it difficult to turn on the TV.
とりあえず しばらくテレビ
It's a Sani television. I guess someone will be watching TV for a while. With that decided, Sojiro resigned himself to reviewing some of the practice problems he'd gotten wrong. In the drawing room, for some reason. There wasn't any particular purpose in doing it there, but he also had no real reason to study back up in his room, especially since there was no desk or anything. And so there he was, leisurely highlighting his textbook with Alice there in the same room. To Sojiro, there really was no difference between the room in the attic and the drawing room with Alice. To be fair, he probably lived with a tiger as long as it didn't cause any trouble. That was both Sojiro's biggest strength and biggest weakness. Before he knew it, the clock was showing 11. He'd spent 2 hours doing his math problems, but wasn't even halfway finished. More than that, he was disappointed in himself for lacking the courage to speak up at all.
それに比べて青崎は頑張ってる
Man, in contrast to Aozaki's really working hard. He dropped his mechanical pencil in the notebook and watched it roll away. Hello? Oh. No, don't. How do I get rid of this? Oh, I think it popped it out. Yeah, there it is. Just put it back. No? There it is. Anyway, he knew that Aoko and Alice were busy with something since final exams had ended. He also knew that she had hardly gotten any sleep recently. If she had been able to just ignore him during exams, she probably would have had an easier time. His nap was probably the first proper sleep Aoko had gotten in days. Though she showed no signs of exhaustion, despite the fact that she must have hit peak long ago, she'd always seemed raring to go. It wasn't that she was trying to act tough. That's just the kind of person she was. Always positive. Always tough as nails. And that was exactly why she came off as completely irrational at times. But if that was the case, you could probably describe Alice in exactly the same way. Sojiro couldn't help but feel a bit inadequate when he saw her single-minded focus on their goals. He'd been so preoccupied with adjusting to his new life that he'd neglected to think about what he was going to do with himself after. Ugh. Thinking about this cast a gloomy cloud over his heart. He felt like he'd never found a clear purpose in life, like Aoko and Alice seemed to have. At least not since he'd left the mountains. His old life was gone now, never to return. He was like a kite cut from its string, destined to fly only where the winds took it. But without anything to ground him, he couldn't do anything about the empty future that lay ahead. He could only let himself fly to where the currents took him, slowly losing sight of the ground below.
そうだな便利なものは溢れているけど本当に望むものは
There's all the conveniences you can ask for here, but nothing I truly desire. The town was full of options, but he could find nothing. He'd asked himself the same questions time and time again. That, or... maybe he felt that lamenting his own ineptitude would, to finding some kind of goal other... Okay, hold on. Let me rub my eyes and read this with eyes that can read. Maybe he felt that limiting his own ineptitude would lead to finding some kind of goal or desire someday. Tired of his own sniveling, Sojiro detectively closed his notebook. When he looked up, he saw his own face reflected back at him in the mirror in the TV screen. His new collar was there around his neck, looking out of place as ever. It's really hitting me. Perhaps a fool like him, who felt weak when faced with other strength, did not need to wear a collar after. Didn't need to wear a collar after all.
まったくだ。悩むのは一丁前になってから。
This is silly. I shouldn't worry about this until I'm actually an adult. He shook off his thoughts of doom and gloom and sat up straight. After sucking himself up a little, he stood up from the sofa.
よし。何か作るけど、アリスは？
I'm gonna make some food. You want anything, Alice? Sojiro asked casually. While Sojiro had been doing his own thing, he'd remained mindful of Alice. Alice looked up, surprised at hearing her name. She had completely forgotten Sojiro was even there.
私
Me?
ああ。アリス、朝から紅茶しか飲んでないだろ。どうせ作るなら、いっぱい作った方がお得なんだ。
Yeah, I mean you. You've only had some tea all morning. If I'm gonna be cooking, I might as well cook for everyone. Ugh. Okay. I'm trying to find a good place to stop so that I could. Without waiting for her reply, Sojiro headed off to the kitchen while putting on his apron. Alice tried to wave at him to stop, but by then he'd already disappeared into the kitchen. She was hesitant to walk all the way in there just to tell him she didn't need anything. And besides, she actually was hungry. Sojiro's proposal made sense, and her empty stomach agreed. Alice was hungry, and Sojiro was going to make them lunch. Making lunch for both of them would save the time and trouble of cooking two separate meals. There was no logical reason for Alice to refuse this gesture. Oh, fuck. She decided to stay quiet and tacitly accept his offer.
変な人
He's quite strange. She whispered the words softly, not to anyone in particular to hear, but for herself. Okay, no matter what this is, I do have to leave. I'm falling asleep at the wheel here, gang, and I don't like to be doing that. So, where's the mouse? This bookmark. I think it would be here. Oops, shit. Okay, well, whatever. It's done. Did the title. Sure to win today, guys, but I'm falling asleep at the wheel. God, I hate it. I hate having. Why must I feel the need to fall asleep? Yeah, whatever. Too tired to go to this. Anyway, hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week. Hope you're all taking care of yourselves, better than I am at least. And whenever you feel tired, you should go to bed. Well, I'm sure there's some sort of caveat to that, but I'm so tired, man. I can't keep my eyes open. I'm so sorry. Bye. Man, it feels like I just started. Fuck.